I've been talking about clean language recently, and it's raised a number of questions about what I mean by clean language and where clean language can be used effectively within large organisations or medium-sized organisations. And it occurred to me as I thought about those questions that it actually has impact in many ways in large organisations. Examples that come to mind are when we conduct market research, for example, we may find some specific information about customers and their experiences, but those could have a huge impact throughout the whole organisation, and there could be some very big decisions riding on the information that is generated, which only serves to highlight how important it is that we can be absolutely confident in that information and we can rely on what's coming out. And customer-generated information is absolutely the most reliable. But what we mean by clean information is information that will enable us to make those decisions with confidence. Examples of decisions that I mean when I say that is if we're talking with a customer, for example, about a retail experience, it's not just what happens in the shop. That has implications throughout the organisation for staffing, for the stock that's made available in that shop, maybe IT, if there's some extension online or some means of communicating with the shops and the customers online. It could also have strategic decisions about channel. We've worked with a company recently who are on the high street and are having to make major decisions about whether they continue to operate on high street with its high costs or whether they put their product through supermarkets. And having tried to do both, they're now in a position of potentially eroding their own market. So big decisions like that can be helped enormously by using clean language because you have reliable information from the customer about the impact those decisions will make. Another area that occurred to me when I was thinking about this question is in briefing and the questions that companies ask their suppliers. Questions that companies ask me when they ask me to go out and find information for them. And questions, for example, that procurement departments may ask when they're putting something out to tender. And those questions can either deliver very, very valuable responses and products or services from suppliers, or they can take them completely down the wrong track. And we know in public service, for example, many examples there of situations where questions have been asked in a tendering situation and tenders have been produced and work may have been carried out. But when that work came back, it wasn't what they wanted, it wasn't what was going to deliver value because they were the wrong questions that were raised in the brief. So again, an opportunity for clean to be used in that situation where asking really good questions and structuring those questions in a way that is going to provide clean response would make sure that those tenders are actually delivering what's required. A third area that occurred to me was the whole thing about focusing on what's important. Companies very often find themselves not knowing what to prioritise, what to do next. They're trying to do too many things at once. They're diluting their resources. So focusing on what's important is something that clean can help enormously with because the customer will talk about what's important to them naturally. And here we have the benefit that only clean can deliver of not allowing assumptions to come into the questioning process. Very often we see that questions are asked and assumptions are made about what's important by asking those questions with words that mean something to the person asking the question and mean nothing to the person who's actually being interviewed. But if you ask the question, you'll be obliged with an answer, and that can take you down completely the wrong track because the tendency is that if you don't get a satisfactory response, you'll just ask more questions about that thing. So, for example, you could be asking somebody about the quality of a product, and they will tell you what they think about the quality of the product, and you can ask them more questions about that. But maybe what was important about that product wasn't the quality at all, but the aesthetics, or the convenience, or the value for money. And had we determined that at the outset through using clean, then that time would have been much better spent. And the company would know that focusing their resources on delivering against those values would actually give them a much better return on their investment. So those are just three ways that I can think of immediately where clean completely takes the information that's generated through questioning process to a different level.